Yeah.
Right. You can see my family now, yeah?
Yes.
Good. So that's the family that she was talking about. My lovely wife, Grace is 12. Josiah is 9. And Tiffany is 5. She's a little tall, pretty tall for her age. But we thank God for his blessing. You know, grace means the grace of God. Josiah means God heals, God restores. And Tiffany means the revelation or the appearance of God. So that's about my family. I want to welcome you all from India, Switzerland, and Malawi. Is joining just now. We'll have an exciting few days together. And as she has already introduced me, I just want to add some few things that you get to really know me, how I grew up, and my family, and why am I passionate about cultural development and poverty. I am the firstborn of 11 children, one father, one mother. So I'm coming from a big family. It's not a good family, but it's a great family. Good family means everything, you know, is working good. But a great family means you can find everything in the family. You find people who are doing great things. You find people who are not doing so great, but we're still operating like a family that every day we try to work to improve and to become the best that God would want us to become. So in Africa, in Malawi particularly, being the firstborn, it means you are a responsible child. You carry the responsibility of helping your parents and also helping the young ones. So that's how I grew up. And growing up, it was not easy. We are challenged with poverty, without having enough to eat, without having enough to put on, to clothe, not even having a decent place to sleep. And because of that challenge and problems, I started to question about the goodness of God, because I was growing up from a Christian family. My mother was Catholic, my father Protestant, CCP, the Church of Central African Presbyterian. So growing up, I was taken to the church from early age, baptized in Catholic, and then followed my father. I was learning about the catechism, which teaches you who God is, what he created, why he created, and also the attributes of God. You know, God is loving, God is omnipresent, God is powerful, God is almighty, and everything that you can learn about God. I was learning in Sunday school. But growing up, I started questioning about two characters of God. Because saying God is almighty means he has all the power. He can change situation. He can do whatever he wants because his God is almighty. And at the same time, he's not just almighty, but he's also loving. So I started struggling that if God is loving as the Bible says he is, why are we in poverty? Why are we struggling like this? Why is my family very poor? Not just my family, but if you look at the whole community, you see everybody is struggling. Everybody is poor. So then I said, it can't be that God is loving as the Bible says. It's not just that he's loving, he's almighty. He can intervene, he can change our situation. Doesn't he care that sometimes we can go 3 days without food, without eating? So then I came to the conclusion that either God is almighty, as the Bible says he is, but he cannot be loving at the same time. Or God is loving as the Bible says he is, but he's not almighty. He cannot change the situation. So because of that, when I was standard 7, 8, I stopped going to the church where my father's going, and I joined a group with my friends. We were 4 of us, and we called ourselves 4 Boys Paganism. And I know, like you guys, you have been studying about worldviews, so you know who a pagan is, you know. So we said, yes, we believe not in a God of the Bible, but we believe in, some magic and some things which can manipulate our destiny. So that was the group that we started. And then we were drinking, we were doing all sorts of bad things that people can do in our age. And my life was really not going in a good direction, because we were drinking too much and trying to hide from my parents. And we, the 4 guys, we were looking for solutions to our poverty. So we were visiting different witch doctors that could help us to solve the problem of poverty. But it was not helping. Things, they were just getting worse, until I came to the turning point. I thought I have to read the Bible once to find out whether I should trust it or not, because I was saying, the Bible is a Jewish book. Why should I be reading the Jewish book anyway? Don't we have clever people in our culture in Malawi who can write some books that we can read about and learn some things? So during that time, when I was reading the Bible, it's when I discovered some things that some of them will be sharing in this week, when it comes to cultural development, understanding poverty, understanding community development, and how can we change our lives. So I'm excited with this week that I will share some of the experience that God has given me over the years, but not just the experience, but also that I went to school. As she was introducing, she said I have a bachelor degrees with the University of the Nations. I transferred some credits from also other schools, a bachelor degrees in environment and community development. So that's what I have. Right now, I'm studying. I'm doing a master's in international relations and diplomacy. So that's what I am doing right now. So I'm happy that this week we can interact. We can ask some questions. When something is not clear, please feel free to ask. I'll be happy to share what I have. And also, I'm looking forward also to learn from your experience when it comes to poverty, understanding poverty and cultural development. And as we are a diverse class, Malawi, Switzerland, India, I think we will share some insights and knowledge that will help us to move forward and to really bring development. Yeah. Any question about myself and my family? Something that you would like to hear more? Said, oh yeah, that story or something that you have said. How did, yeah. I've just shared my life now, not up to not how I met my wife, but if there's any question that I can share, I would love to do that. Yes. That's Switzerland.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cannot see you properly, so please you can tell me your name and where you're from and your question, please. Thank you.
Hello, Decent. I'm Catherine. I'm from the UK.
Yes.
It was lovely to briefly meet you when you came to class the other day.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to ask and just hear more about kind of culturally what in Malawi the connection is with witch doctors, why you went to a witch doctor in particular. Thank you.
All right, Catherine, that's a wonderful question. In Malawi, we are a culture that the foundations of our culture and our country, it's animism. I hope you have learned about animism in this school. Animism is the belief in spirits, that the spirits, they control the physical, and in everything they are spirits. So as somebody who was born from that culture, we believed that the spirits, they are so powerful. And when you consult the witch doctor, they are like the priests, the mediums, that they can transfer some power that you can manipulate the physical, the reality. So with the question of my poverty, our struggles in the family, I thought the best way, if God is not that powerful and is not that loving enough that he can take care of my problem and the problem of my family, the answer is to go to witchcraft so that I can gain some power to control the physical, that I can come out of poverty. So it was my way to come out of poverty. Yeah. Does it help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Somebody else would like to ask or to know something? All right, I continue. The year 2000 I moved from my village to Blantyre City. That time is when I joined the church, which I still belong now, called Good Samaritan. I gave my life, I recommit my life to Christ. And then I started applying for the Youth with a Mission, DTS, 2003. But every year when I applied, they said there is no space. It was full. I applied until 2005. They could not pick me to do a DTS. And then I said, maybe I have to do something else. Because my desire to do a DTS or to go with YWAM was to learn more about God, to say, is there something that I don't know about God? Because when I was going to the church and the teachings around, it was more about love, about giving or faith. So these teachings will go like every Sunday. It will come from a different angle, you know. This time you're going to learn about love. The next time you learn about having faith. And sometime you're going to learn about faith again from the giving perspective. So it was, I have a hunger in me to know more. So then I gave up. I said, maybe it will not going to work. So 2006, I didn't apply. 2007, when it was approaching 2007, somebody told me that try one more time to apply. So I applied, and that year I was picked. And that's when I also met Nadia, my wife now, but then a girlfriend. That was, I met her. She was also coming to do the DTS. We managed to break the only rule. Why rule by then? They said no relationship during the DTS. We managed to break that. But thank God we are still married today. But God had a plan. All these years before, when I was applying to do a DTS, they didn't pick me. But what I didn't know is that God wanted to give me two in one, to do a DTS and a wife. So that's what happened. So now we have these three kids, and we have some projects that we are doing together in Malawi. We have 4 pillars that we work in it. The idea is the organization. We have the organization called Extending Hope, which has a branch here in Switzerland and also in Malawi. We want to give hope to the hopeless people. Just like myself, I grew up without hope. Because if you could meet me before, there was no way to think that I'll become what I am today. But because of hope, I am who I am today. So we give hope through education, primary health care, economics and agriculture, and youth and sports. So that's what we are doing. That's who I am. So I've shared about my personal life, family, how I met my wife, and what we are doing now. Is there any question now? Now I want to go to the agendas of this week. Any questions so far about me, my family, or what we do? Okay. Fine. Okay, so this is what we are going to do these few days. So we're going to look at community philosophies, and we're going to understand poverty, what is poverty, and what are the issues that contribute to poverty. And we're going to look at the foundations of development. What are the foundations? And then we're going to contrast biblical development and secular development. And we're going to look at relief development continuum. And we're going to look at the creation pyramid and the resource stewardship. So that's what we're going to look at. And I hope time will allow that we can go through this. But I'm not interested to finish what I've prepared. I'm also interested to learn from you, and also to address specific questions that you might have when it comes to poverty or development. So please, when you have a question, when you have something, feel free to interrupt, okay? That would be very nice. So I will start with the Bible verse. That's from 2 Peter chapter number 1, verse 3. So this verse will serve as the introduction, that you can put it on the back of your mind, because we'll come back to it. It says in 2 Peter 1, verse 3, it says, His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us to his own glory and excellence. So if you can see here, there are two things that I wanted us to think about, and you can mark in your Bible, if it's your Bible, if whatever you're using, whether a tablet or a hard copy, you can put a mark on the word life and godliness. God has given us all things that pertain to life. And that's the first thing, life. And the second thing is godliness. Life and godliness. So there are two things here that we're going to study, and it will help us with our cultural development. So just a background of Peter was one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, the apostle. And he was writing this later in the first century to the first century Christians. And during that time, it was not a good time, because the Christians, they were persecuted and they were scattered. So he is writing to people who are persecuted, who are scattered, and they are a minority, and things, they were grim. It was not a good time. So he's writing this to give them hope, to give them an encouragement. So he said, although you are in trouble, although things, they're not working, although there are some difficulties, but I want you to know that God has given us two things: to be godly, and he has given us everything that makes life possible. So what I want you guys to be thinking about, what are the things that makes life possible? Because there are things that makes our life possible, things pertaining to life, for you to be a living soul, to be a human being. What do you need to be alive? What do you need? Think about that. And Peter is claiming here that God has given us everything that will make us living and active, to have life. So what are these things? So it's something that we will talk about later, but I want you to take time and just to think about, and what are the things that makes us godly. So my challenge is that in our churches, in Christendom, sometimes we focus a lot only on the things that makes us godly. So we are sometimes one way. We are just siding on the things that make us godly, self-control, love. If you can continue in this chapter, you're going to read that, self-control, love, praying in the spirit, and all these other things. So we train ourselves into godliness, but sometimes we neglect the things that will help us to be who we are, to be living beings, to be strong. But Peter here is not making a distinction that this one is this side is more important than the other. He said God has given us these two things that makes life possible and things that makes us godly. So I want us just to take just 5 minutes for now before we go deeper. Turn to your neighbor and just think about, what are the things that makes life possible? What do you need to be a human being? What do you need? What are the things? I just want to hear your thoughts a little bit, then we'll go on. 5 minutes. That's the introduction. All right. 5 minutes is over. Let's come back.
Okay.
Okay, so I would just like to hear one person from Switzerland and Coach and Malawi. Just a few sentences. What do you think? You know, it doesn't have to be right. It's not right or wrong. Just to say your idea. So let's start with Switzerland, then India, then Malawi. Just a few sentences. What are the things that makes life possible?
We need the spirit of the breath of life from God to be living beings. We can have all of the parts of the body, but without His spirit and His breath, we're just a bag of bones and flesh. We also then liked a quote from Thomas Aquinas, which said, three things
are necessary for the salvation of man: to know what he ought to believe, to know what he ought to desire, and to know what he ought to do. I've been reading a lot of him lately from his Precepts of Charity, and I think it kind of summarizes a lot about each person's life and what they ought to do. Like, we have to know what we believe, know what we ought to desire, and then know what we ought to do, therefore. And so yeah, we're talking about that. Plus, of course, yeah, what gives us life, as Catherine said.
All right, thank you so much. So you are in the category of belief, desire. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we will check. We'll fact check. We'll check it later. Okay, that's good just to have the ideas and opinion going. Okay, India.
So we need people, family, and relation. Without people, we cannot do anything. So we need a connection.
Come again, please.
We need people, family. We need the family. Without people, we cannot do anything. So we need a family.
Okay. Thank you so much. Family. We need a family to survive, to make life possible. Thank you. Malawi.
Yeah, we see that God has given us food, has given us water, sun, and some other resources to make life possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our seminar guest Yair, do you have something, an idea, something that you would like to say?
Okay, there's not much different because in life we need about three basic things, which is food, accommodation, and clothes. So they are all like in the same categories.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you very much. All right. Yeah, let's go on. We will come to this later. I just wanted you to keep on thinking. What are the things that makes life possible? But for now, I want to come to the first part of our lecture, which is community of philosophies. If God has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness, why do we see that some nations, they develop, others not? Why do we see people, some they're progressing, others not? So the first part is the worldview part, or the philosophies. You know, what is philosophy? Philosophy is made out of two words: philo, which means friend; Sophia, wisdom. So a friend of wisdom. So each and every person has a philosophy, has an idea how things should work. And these ideas, when they are applied, we're not going to have the same results, because not all ideas are equal. Different ideas have radically different results. So now we're going to look at just community philosophies, because you have already done the three basic worldview, which is animism, biblical theism, and humanism. That is the basic three worldview that you have done already. So in the communities, in the nations of the world, wherever you go, you're going to find that there are people who have an idea how things need to work in the world or in their community. So you find the first group of people, atheism. These people, they say there is no God. So they build their lives, their principles, and how to organize their communities or their life from this idea that there is no God. And you find another group of people, agnostic. So these people, this group, they say, you can't know, you don't know whether there is a God or not. So these people who say they don't know whether there is a God or not, they're also in the community. And you find animism. They believe that the spirits, they are God and they are everywhere. And then you have polytheism. They believe in many gods. And you have dualism. They believe in two gods, one good or bad. They are equal, opposite, good or bad. Then you have monotheism. They believe in one God. And you have deism. God, there might be a God, but he's not involved in his creation. It's like a watchmaker that he makes the watch and he just leave it to run until it dies. So that's deism. And you can also find deists in the church today, people who can believe that yes, God might create the weather, but he cannot influence it. And then you have theism. God is a creator and he's also still involved. And you have existentialism. These people, they believe in experience. What you experience, that's God, that's God, that's what is true. That's what you can build your life upon. And you have humanism. Yeah, there is no outside revelation. God, man is God. Then you have materialism. Matter is everything that is there. And you have rationalism. Mind is God. Then you have mysticism. They believe in many spirits. The spirits, they're everywhere and they're in control. And you have monism. Matter and spirits, they are one. And you have pantheism, all is God. And the opposite of that is pantheism. Pantheism. God is in all things. So these are the people in our communities, in our nations, they are there. They don't think the same way. They don't believe the same thing. So how can you start building the communities in this diversity of thinking, of way of looking at the world, of way of looking at the things? So you're going to see that we will have challenges when it comes to organizing communities, organizing nations. So the first part when it comes to cultural development or community development is the world of ideas. Ideas has consequences. Whatever people think, when they apply it in real life, you're going to find different results. So let's just take one example, like if somebody said, I don't know whether there is a God or not, what does it create in your thinking pattern? You begin to doubt everything. You cannot be secure in anything that you do because you don't know what can you know if you don't know whether God exists or not. What can you know for sure that if I do this will work or not? So we will have a challenge in our application in the real life when we don't have a common reference. That's why when you go to the children of Israel, the history of the children of Israel, one of the first thing that God did to disciple the nation through Moses, he gave them the commandments, the 10 commandments. And these 10 commandments, it was, I mean, we can say, maybe in the modern mind, we can say, oh, some things they're like a challenge, but it was the best way to prepare these nations, the nations of slave, to become a great nation. Because if they have the same commandment, and one of the commandments was that you should not worship any other God except me, what does it do to them? Is that when they have one God, it means they'll have the similar worldview. They'll have the same worldview. They'll have the same thinking, and it's easy to agree on what is to happen. But if you have many gods, you believe in different gods, you don't have the same ideas, and you cannot progress. You cannot agree on something. If you have to make a decision as a community or as a nation, it will be just a fight. It will take a lot of energy. It will take a lot of negotiation and diplomacy to come to an agreement to move the nation or the community forward. But in that process of forming the nation of Israel, God thought it wise that when they say they have the same 10 commandments, they are worshiping one God, it was another way of forming their worldview, forming their thinking pattern, that they'll have the same philosophy of doing things. No wonder 300 years after the Exodus, Israel was one of the greatest nations there, that other nations could come and learn from them. Any questions so far? No question? No comment? Are you able to follow? Am I too fast or too slow?
You're good.
You good?
Mm.
Okay. Okay, so let's come to the worldview of poverty, understanding poverty. So there are over 1.1 billion people, poor people in the world, okay? And 47% of these people, they live in sub-Saharan Africa. And 56% of the poor are farmers. What is the problem? let's look at the condition of our world today. You know, more than 855 million are malnourished. They don't have enough to eat. 18,000 people die daily because of hunger. More than 8, now we can say more than 18,000. And we have more than 1.3 billion people who cannot access clean water. 25 million, more than 25 million people die each year because of contaminated water. And now in Malawi, we just have a situation of the cyclone Fred that hit the country. And now to have clean water in Blantyre, the thousand legion of Malawi, it's a problem. And still some bodies, they are missing. And the toilets and the septic tanks, they were flooded. So now the water might be contaminated. And then the threat will be the outbreak of cholera and all other diseases. Two 2.4 billion people, they live without decent sanitation. And 18% of the diseases in the third world countries are environmental related illnesses. What do I mean by environmental? It means that we mismanage our environment. We pollute our air, we pollute the water, and we don't have balanced diet, the food that we eat, and then we become sick. Okay. So you can see that on this graph, from 2011 to 2020, there was a time that poverty was growing, and now it was going down. But because statistics always they are delayed, now with the beginning of 2020 going up, you're going to see with the war and COVID-19 and many other things, it's growing. You see that people, they are scattered. People, they have to seek for asylum. They have to be, they have to run away from their country. There are many problems. So the funny thing you're going to see on the next one, the next graph about the extreme poverty, you're going to see that South Asia, East Asia, and the other parts, the poverty was dropping. But to our African friends, you're going to see that instead of the poverty dropping, the poverty is rising, it's growing. So the question is why? Why? So I want us to break out in groups before we came to understand what is little poverty and what we can do about it. To break in groups and say, why is poverty growing in Africa while in other parts the statistics showing that it's dropping? So let's discuss for this 10 minutes, and then we'll after the discussion, we're going to take the 30 minutes break. Is that okay? Are we together?
Yes.
Discuss why the poverty the extreme poverty is growing in Africa while in other parts it's reducing? What is the problem? What is the cause of that? Yeah. So we can break up in groups of 4 people now, 4 or 3 people, and discuss. I would like to hear your opinion about this. Thank you.
Or maybe we can also do as one group, because anyway we are sharing.
Are you all back? You ready to share with me? Why is that the poverty is growing in Africa while the other parts of the world is reducing? Any thoughts? So we start with this time India. We have to hear their ideas, and then we're going to hear from Switzerland, and then we're going to hear from Malawi, representing Africa. What are their ideas? So since we had different groups, how many groups do you have in Malawi and in India and in Switzerland?
We did only one group.
Okay, in India? 2. Okay.
One.
Okay, in Malawi?
1 as well.
You have 1 group?
Yeah, we are different groups, but we just combine it to make it 1 effort, 1 group only.
All right,
yeah.
Good. So let's start with India. If you can also combine and just be 1 group, share your ideas, please. India, the microphone is yours now.
I think one of the main reasons for poverty is bettering some people's mindset.
People's mindset, okay.
The other is education.
Education, okay.
Literacy.
Sorry, come again, please.
Illiteracy.
Okay, good. You finish?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so in India, they said can be the problem of education. Many people, they are not educated. Mindset, the worldview of the people. Thank you. What about Switzerland?
Oh, I don't know what to say.
Okay, yeah, so we kind of talked about a fair amount of things, but then we kind of got to more of the question of, what makes Africa truly different? Because, we were talking about things like corruption and worldview and like treatment of like women in all parts of society. But then we were kind of talking more about too, like how that's kind of many parts of the world as well, not just in Africa. So then I think we kind of talked more about maybe narrowed it down to things like within worldview, like work ethic. And we talked a couple weeks back about example where this one farmer like really started like doing big produce and having a lot of success in Africa, and then everybody kind of tore him down and didn't think that, basically like was very jealous of him. And so I think it's like this different view of like success and work ethic. How like a place like East Asia and Japan, China, North Korea, and these kind of places where there's a lot of like celebration towards success and celebration towards doing well and succeeding, whereas there might be a little more of like this dragging down, jealousy that seems to have more of a common effect in parts of Africa. So yeah, that among other things, again, just like that are relevant in other parts of the world, maybe more of a culture of like corruption, bribery, and then also treatment of women and these kind of things. Yeah.
All right. So we have education, we have mindset, we have corruption, we have the treatment of women, we have the view of success, how the African view success, the jealousy, So what do you Malawians say? Why is the continent of Africa, the poverty is growing instead of going down?
All right, thank you very much. Representing Africa. So we found that there are several problems why Africa's poverty is increasing instead of decreasing. Some of them that have already been mentioned, but the first thing is dependency. Depending on Western donors to run our country. When you look into the Bible, you find that God is saying that it shall be heads, not tails, you shall lend, not borrow. So most of our countries in Africa, we depend borrowing from Western. As a result, we do not go far. In terms of dependence, again, this comes again in Western influence. They influence us, they give us donors, but they do not want us to develop based on our plan. They want us to do their plans, not our plans. So that is a very, very big problem. Another thing, number 2, is about the education system. Here in Africa, maybe in our country, for example, our education system only teaches us to manage wealth, not to create wealth. That is a problem again. People spend 12 years, 15 years in school, have papers, they are called professors, but what they learn from school is all about managing somebody's wealth. They are not taught on how to create wealth, on how to start new things. So that's a second problem. The other thing in terms of education, again, is mindset. Since we depend mainly on Western, that has killed our ability to create things. That means that we've implanted the mindset that we cannot survive on our own unless a donor comes in. So that is killing a lot of dreams, is killing a lot of opportunities. And that also, to add on that, we had an issue, for example, recently we've had an issue in Uganda with President Museveni. So the issue is that according to our culture in Africa, we do not allow like man-to-man marriage or women-to-men marriage. But because they give us money, since they give us donors, they give us money, they want us to abide by their rules. Whereby those rules which they're giving us is different from our culture, is against our values, is against our culture. So if we refuse, then they send sanctions. If you don't allow this bill to pass, we'll do this, we'll do this. If you don't allow that, it means we'll never give you money. So Africa is forced to accept the rules or the laws which are different from our culture, which are against our culture, just because they give us money. That's why poverty is increasing in Africa. The other part, again, let's look at Congo. There's been war, many years war there. But you find that the war is not ending because other Westerners are profiting from that. Because we don't have anything to show to defend ourselves. The other thing is about patriotism. We as Africans ourselves, we do not love our country, do not learn to defend our country. As a result, since we are divided, an outside person can come and tell us what to do. For example, in Libya, under the regime of Gaddafi, the country was doing well, was good, but the division which was created resulted whereby Gaddafi was killed, eliminated. Now the country is facing problems. But if the people of Libyans could have stood together as Africa to defend Gaddafi, to defend Africa, we could have talking something else now. But now poverty has increased in Libya because we are not patriotic. We do not love our country. We do not love one another. We are not united. The other thing is about leadership. When we talk of leadership, we're talking about managing, leading in a sense that we should see the plan for the future. For example, we had a cyclone Freddy. It has been announced we're going to have a cyclone Freddy, do this, do that. But we find that some of the leaders they didn't do anything. But if they could have acted, maybe the chaos could have been different. So our leaders, they do not know how to manage things. I'm sorry to say that they do not know how to manage. If they could have a proper plan, then they could be different. And I think on that one as well, inferior complex. When the same principle, the same idea has been said by a black person, our fellow Africans will not accept it. But when it's being said by Westerners, the same idea, the same process, they will accept it. So we feel that my fellow Africans is very inferior. It can never say anything that can improve our life rather than a Westerner or a somebody else. So in terms of these are just a few problems. These are just a few problems which is making Africa to be poor. Because if we could have a mindset change, Africa on itself, it can survive, it can progress, it can be rich, it can be independent. But our mindset has been printed that we cannot survive without the donors. As a result, that's why we're very poor. Thank you very much from Malawi. Africa.
All right. Does anybody want to comment or say something or to disagree something? We are not getting indoctrination here. It's a learning process. As I said, we can learn from one another. We can share our experience. Is there something that maybe the guys from Switzerland or from India can say? Yeah, to that point or that thing. I think it's the main thing. Like the takeaway. Why is Africa not, the poverty level is growing? Anybody else would like to comment after the Malawians?
Oh, it's great. Appreciate you sharing a lot from Malawi. It's great to hear from the actual source of what you guys see and what you observe around you. So thanks for sharing.
All right. Okay, so I think that's a good starting point of where we are going. And what we want to do now is to analyze poverty, and so that we can really break it down. When we say somebody is poor, what do we mean? And you can see the answers that we got now. Most of them, they are outside factors, because we have inside factors and outside factors, like the things which can cause poverty. So you can see most of them on our answers now, it's outside factors, things that are contributing to poverty. So we're going to look at it so that we can go a little bit deeper on this topic. But first, we have to discuss again now for a few minutes. We want to dig deeper now to say, who are the poor? We are talking about poverty growing and reducing, but who are these people we're talking about? How do you know that somebody is poor? So who are the poor? Where do they live? Where do these poor people live? Why are they poor? Of course, there will be an overlap with what we have just done, but we want to dig deeper so that we have a bigger understanding of what poverty is. Because if you don't know the problem, it will be difficult to solve the problem as well. So you need to discover in order to recover. Where does poverty come from? And what will be the end of poverty? So let's also be in groups again and discuss for 7 minutes. Last time we were talking about 10 minutes, now 7 minutes. Let's just discuss and jot down some answers on this one. Who are the poor? How do you know that somebody is poor? You know, where do they live? Why are they poor? Where does poverty come from? And what will be the end of poverty? Thank you. 7 minutes. That means we are back at 11:08. We are back.